Lead
followers.
But to multiply growth.
Lead leaders.
This is that exponential curve that we see, in math. Like if you lead followers, it's great, but that gives you something linear.
Yeah.
You lead leaders who get followers each.
Yep. I mean,
explosive.
welcome to the Biggest Talk. For all you viewers tuning in for the first time, we break down some of the most influential bestsellers of our generation and read them, so you don't have to. We're your hosts,
Ira.
Sebastian.
and Harrison.
For today's episode, we will be going over the last 6 laws of John C. Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership.
Nice.
And if you guys haven't seen the other 15 laws, you can just go back in our feed and watch our other videos.
Yep, we're wrapping it up. So the first law for today is the law of the Big Mo. Harrison, what is Big Mo?
This is not your cousin on Thanksgiving.
Getting his 5th plate. No.
That's right.
My
Well-
name Big Mo.
Law of the Big Mo essentially highlights momentum. Momentum is the leader's best friend. I mean, in a lot of situations, you guys know how in your cars, when you look at your side view mirrors, it says objects in the mirror may appear closer than they seem.
Objects in the mirror are closer than they appear.
Okay, thank you. I apologize. But, this also translates to the Big Mo saying that with momentum, when you're making progress, all of a sudden your mistakes look smaller. All of a sudden your success looks larger. I mean, when you're doing well in something, have you noticed that when you do make a mistake, you're just kind of like, you shake it off,
Really easily, yeah.
Right, you shake it off really easily, but when you're having a hard time, every mistake seems to be amplified after every single
And you're
one.
just reaching for those victories.
Right, anything you can grasp for, really, just grasping at straws.
Yeah.
I think a really good example is just Isaac Newton, right? Object in motion tends to stay in motion.
Yeah.
People are always moving. Things are always changing. The world does not stop turning for anybody.
Yeah, and I think we all experience this. Like, we have the work week, Monday through Friday, and we wind down just to wind back up again Monday.
Right.
And that's why everybody hates Mondays, because you lose that momentum over the weekend by winding down instead of having just some level of productivity in the weekend to carry that momentum through back to Monday, because then Monday wouldn't be such a big problem, I think.
Yeah, because it's like when you look at it like that, it's sort of like a snowball effect. At the beginning of the week, you're starting with a snowball, and then you get the ball rolling. And so it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Then once you get to the weekend, you just stop the ball, and it's already like this big, huge ball. So then it's like when it comes back to Monday again, trying to get that same one rolling again, it's going to be really hard.
Right,
it's harder.
definitely.
Yeah.
It's like pushing it back up the same hill and rolling it back down.
Exactly. And to do that week in, week out is just going to cause your motivation to just drop and drop and drop. Instead of making it easy for yourself, you're making it harder. And
It's going to take more of a toll on you.
yeah, but it takes that commitment to do it right.
Yeah, and especially with how simple a law this is, it's really one of the more core laws that we should really, if there's anything that you guys should take away from this book, this has to be one of them. Knowing that you can build momentum and use that to rally people. If you notice, like a basketball team, if you're watching a basketball game, any sports game, right, and one team is dominating and the other team's just getting slaughtered, the team that's dominating tends to continue to do well. And what do the coaches do when their teams aren't doing well consecutively? They call timeouts. They try to stop the momentum that the other team is building. Because in your mind, when you're playing a sport, in your mind, every mistake and you're losing, every mistake is like, oh shoot. I messed up.
Yeah.
But it's a lot easier to recover your losses when you're ahead.
Yeah. The other day, I was actually at my little cousin's basketball game, and then they were leading like 59 to like 23.
Yeah.
And so my little cousin's basketball coach was there on the sidelines, making sure that they're doing things right. But the other team had literally already given up to the point where I saw the coach like sitting on the sidelines with the other teammate members, and then he was just using his phone. The coach was using his phone.
Wow.
That's sad.
That's how great of a momentum that my little cousin's team had gotten going during that game.
And a poor coach. Like,
Yeah. Let's
Let's
take a moment to talk about that real quick. If your leader is not motivated, why is there any reason for you to be motivated?
Like the example we had before, right? I forgot who it was, but he gave his platoon over to the next guy. He's like, good luck, right?
Right.
It's just like, obviously if you don't believe in your team, you're the figure they look up to. They're not gonna believe in
Mhm.
themselves.
It's
Back to
it's
empowerment.
this thing called self-fulfilling prophecy.
Mhm.
It's like when you believe you're gonna fail, of course you're gonna fail, right? Because if that's what you believe in, why would it be anything else? Because failure is easy. Failure is easy. You do nothing and you fail,
Mhm.
right? But success is hard.
Yeah.
Success is exponentially more difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should go find that coach and give him this book, you know.
Yeah.
That's right.
I think he could.
Well, that's why he's coaching kids,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
All right.
So moving on, the
Enough
next
trash
law,
talk.
the law of priorities. Do you guys have your priorities straight? And what does it mean to, successfully order your priorities? How do you put this kind of list together?
Well, there's 3 R's that John Maxwell talks about. What is required of me, what gives me the greatest return, and what brings the greatest reward. Right? So when you're doing things, you also have to look at the outcome of them to find what's the biggest priority.
Yeah, what is
gives you
your
the
ROI?
Yeah, what gives you the return? If
Mhm.
it's not giving you the return, maybe if you think it will, you could try it once or twice more. If not, you set a different priority and you put it lower.
See, that's where a lot of people make their mistakes in setting their priorities, because they set their priorities based on the level of difficulty of the tasks that they need to complete. Even though one task may be harder than another, it may not have the same return as the easier task would have.
So you're saying what? Just you shouldn't prioritize difficulty. You should prioritize.
You should
return on investment?
prioritize based on what the return would be, like Maxwell says, you know.
Right. But here's an interesting thing. As an entrepreneur, right, how would you prioritize your business if the ROI is virtually not even there?
Well, you got to prioritize based on the ROI that you perceive.
Right.
To be
Right.
there.
So
In
saying
the
that, I feel like
future.
there's a lot of it also has to do with intuition.
Yep.
Because what everybody else considers important is completely unique to every single individual.
Yes.
So, as a business owner, his business is obviously important. This is his all or nothing. And obviously he prioritizes, because although the ROI is not there immediately, it might be, or it will never be.
Yeah.
But, to talk about this, just to clarify the difference between like your return, because I don't want people to go home and be like, okay, well, I know this
Gives
is
me a
my
return,
return. So, but for example, if I start a business, well, I don't know if I'm a return, so I'm not going to start my own
Yeah.
business.
yeah. I'm
right?
not gonna prioritize, and then therefore.
Right. So I feel like it's really important to successfully like identify the difference and go through all the little nuances that comes together to make your priorities, because everyone's priorities is different. So personally, for me, I always prioritize importance. That's a big thing for me.
That's the important thing.
Yeah,
for you.
it is an important thing for me. But how I classify importance is changing every day
Yeah,
that
of
I'm
course.
finding.
Yeah.
Every day you change a little bit, you're maturing a little bit more, and I'm like, one priority yesterday may not be the same priority tomorrow. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
I,
and
I think we can all agree on that, because it's also just you have to have that wide perspective, like you said, like the business. Like if you don't prioritize it, what if you don't have a plan B? Then you have to prioritize it, even if
Right.
the return is 0 or negative for 10 years. You have to prioritize it for 10 years because you need that return, because that's your only way.
Yep. And it all goes back to how Maxwell talked about in the intro, that growth is change. you
yeah,
know?
definitely growth,
Equals.
change.
Got it.
I mean, in a lot of areas, like we said with the last law, momentum, like you can either move up or move down in life. I mean, either you're trading your car and you're trading it up, or you're trading it down. I think that's the easiest example too.
I feel like there's no stagnant point. 'Cause,
Right.
like if you're stagnant, you're going down.
Right,
Yeah.
but I feel like when you're talking about priorities, these are more of the attributes that contribute to that trade. Because everyone can walk into the car dealership and say, "I want to trade in my car," right? But what makes your car more valuable? What makes you more valuable? How are you adding a little bit to your goals? I think that's the way I see priority.
Yeah. Going back to the law of momentum for a second, I just wanted to touch on, it's like law of momentum, it could also be creative positively, but there could also be a negative momentum, which is what you do not want, Like how in our previous video we talk about how managers would lower the goal of the month for like sales or something.
Yeah.
So that way it would boost their employees' morale. So if they get on the momentum of constantly lowering their target goal, it's going to be hard for them to get that target goal back up.
Yeah, or even just the example of the basketball game,
Yeah.
right? The losing team, they're going down, right? They're not.
Mhm.
It's for them to push up is a lot harder than for them to just keep going down.
Right.
At that point.
And that's
Right.
where the leader would come in, but sadly for them.
Unfortunate.
All right, let's move on to the next law, the law of sacrifice.
What
Leader
are you
must
willing
give
to,
up to go up.
There you
So
go.
to go up, yep. So there's 4 points Maxwell touches upon in the law of sacrifice. There is no success without sacrifice. Leaders are often asked to give up more than others. You must keep giving up to stay up, and the higher level of leadership you are, the greater the sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Because you, like we said, you have to represent that figure that does 10 times more than everybody else. So
Mhm.
you got to sacrifice 10 times more for them to sacrifice a fraction.
That's true. That's
One
true.
of the cool examples that Maxwell uses in the book for the law of
The
sacrifice
cool one.
is it's a highly respectable decision, because at one point Lincoln, before he was president, he was leading a platoon, but he didn't know jack about leading a platoon.
Yeah.
So he sacrificed his position as leader for the benefit of his the other soldiers in his platoon. He went from being, I'm not sure what the commanding officer's
Mhm.
position is,
Yeah.
Mhm.
but to a private, one of the lower
I think we see this a lot, like Gymshark. The founder, the CEO, is no longer the CEO. He's part of like the design sector, because
Mhm.
that's how he started. You know, he started designing the brand,
yeah.
and that's what got him up. So he you know, I'm sure he gets a great pay still, but he chose to step down from the CEO position because he knew that wasn't his specialty. His specialty was fashion, and that's where he stuck to. And that's what successful. You know, if you want to be successful, that's what you have to do. Find your strengths and stick to it. If you're not like the biggest leader, it's okay. You know, find your spot.
Yeah, I mean, this all ties together. I mean, as the further that you read into this book, you realize, you know, some of these laws are pretty similar to other ones. This one in particular, I think relates very much to either the first or second episode that we're talking about. You know, the myth of position,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Just because you're a leader doesn't make you the most qualified person to do that. And I feel like there's a lot of cases, like you said, with Gymshark or with Abraham Lincoln, that people sacrifice that title. And constantly, from what I understand, would you rather have a larger paycheck or would you rather have a title, right? So in that kind of sense of understanding it, would you much rather have a success in your company or be the one like hindering your growth, right?
Yeah,
because
because-
you never want to be that one person.
Yeah, because you have that ego stuck in that position. You're like, oh, I can't lose this title, or else it seems like I'm going backwards.
Right, definitely.
But you're not. You're just
Yeah.
moving to somewhere where you're more comfortable and have stronger ability to lead
Mhm.
there.
As the leader, you are going to be making the hardest sacrifices more than anyone else in your team, in your inner circle, whatever it is, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely give up a lot of privacy too.
Definitely.
If you notice, that's why we have TMZ, right? What a wonderful company. But TMZ will go and, you know, stalk people, in my opinion, stalk
Yeah.
these celebrities.
Mhm.
And every little thing will be like, you know, if Kylie Jenner leaves the restaurant to go get her wallet that she forgot in her car, they'll be like, oh, Kylie Jenner's a horrible mom, forgets baby in restaurant,
Yeah.
right? So when you're a leader, you kind of have a similar, you have a similar restriction in terms of you lose a lot of your freedom to do the things that you want to do. I mean, leaders have to uphold, you know, that moral code,
Yeah.
your ethics. Why would you follow a leader that isn't to your standard what, you know, perfection is, or as close to perfection as you can get?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that also connects back to the law of the big picture, you know?
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly what I was thinking. It's like that really is how it manifests, right? 'Cause TMZ actually just takes your picture.
Right, I know. And then they'll just write whatever headline that they want to about it.
You really got to display, you know, the highest level of like everything, you know, like just your habits, you know, how you spend your
Mhm.
time. Like even if Justin Bieber eats a burrito sideways, it's like a big ass deal, you know?
Right.
Mhm.
And it
But-
was fake too.
Yeah, it was fake. I remember, dude, the video for that's so funny.
I mean, I think I think something that everyone should understand is like framing,
Yeah.
how you frame things. I mean, in my experience, CNN, Fox, you know,
Fox News.
both notorious for being biased
Yeah.
on either the Democratic
So
side versus the
biased.
Republican side. You know, CNN will, for example, say, "Hey, do you support Americans being killed in war every year?" Da, 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 da. And then Fox would be like, "Oh, do you support our troops?" right? Well, obviously, no one's gonna support Americans being killed,
Yep.
and no one's
Mhm.
gonna not support our troops. So then they'll take that data and be like, hey, you know, this amount of people don't support the war. Versus
Yep.
Fox, be like, this amount of people do support the war.
Yep.
So it really depends on how you're framed. And, you know, as a leader, you have to do your best, essentially. Of course, there's going to be areas that you're not going to be successful in, but you really, it's just one of those things that you have to accept and be ready for that kind of responsibility.
Yeah, the news isn't that great because like they know that's their strength is being
Right.
biased, and they know people just want to hear what they want to hear,
Right, right.
and that's why they do it all the time, or else
If
they
you
wouldn't.
want proper news, you got to go to multiple sources.
Definitely. I think it's always
just
smart
It's so
to
hard. It's so hard to
be able to cross-reference, you know, anything that you see or watch or hear. I mean,
Yeah.
make your own truth.
It's I don't
Okay, what?
trust the news
There is a
sources.
truth, though. Make your own truth.
Yeah.
Sorry, excuse me. I take that back
Form your-
wholeheartedly.
Form your own opinions.
Right. You should form your own opinion. I mean, if you go to a doctor and he's like, hey, you have cancer and it's like stage 4 and you're ready to kick the bucket, but if you pay me $100,000, I'll do a procedure for you and you'll live. Versus if you go to the next day, it's like, oh, you just have a cold.
Yeah.
Right? So you always want that kind of second and third and fourth opinion. I mean, really, you can't just be like CNN, like, oh, the world is ending. You know, Trump
Yeah.
is this racist guy.
Yeah.
Versus Fox, like, oh, the world is flourishing.
God is here.
Yeah, essentially. So you have to be able to find the fine line between the two and make your own opinion. Otherwise, everyone's just a bunch of sheep. You know?
Yeah.
Yep.
I
All
think-
right.
Let's time to move on to the next law. Or did you have another point?
Nope. I do think it's time to move on.
The
to
law
next one.
of timing. This is extremely important.
I think you know a little about this one.
Yeah. There have been many examples of companies who have the right products. They have these amazing products, but is the world ready for you yet? And I feel like John really highlights situations that timing is extremely important. Although you might be the right person, the right guy for it, if you're not in that small, delicate bubble of when you should do things, it might be the right decision, but that perception may be missed.
Yeah, what we
If you
talked
miss
about
timing.
before,
Mhm.
earlier in I think the second episode, we kind of touched upon this. Like Gary Vee, he talks about how he did, YouTube and all these other platforms like a long time ago, like 7 years ago when he did his wine library, and he got like no views for like 7 years. But now that it's exploded, so is he, right? He was a little early, but he was willing to take that early entry to blow up now, compared to now he's teaching everybody else how to do it, right? So
But Gary Vee, he has a lot of cushion. It was in a situation that he didn't have to risk a lot to do that.
yeah, because there's no overhead for that
Exactly.
kind of
So,
thing.
but I feel like this law applies so deeply into companies that are just starting up,
Yeah,
or people who are just making decisions that these decisions are so crucial or detrimental to the rest of your life.
yeah, I think we could compare it to a stock, right? Like the timing is very important, right? It could be going down. You could, like, if let's say Gary's method was used in a stock. If he entered and it wasn't time and it just kept going down, he'd be losing,
Right.
right? Even if it shot up now that social media is blown up,
Right.
he still could have broke even, right? Because of how low he might have dipped.
Right.
So, and that's how it is for businesses, right? Like if they come in early, they spend. Maybe they do blow up at some point, but at that point you're not
Definitely.
scratching to break even.
Yeah, I think a really good example would be, let's use Airbnb as an example. Okay. So amidst the 2008 housing crisis, even moving up past that throughout the years, it's definitely taken a toll on every American. And I'm blessed enough to not have necessarily felt the initial shocks of that. But anyone who has, especially homeowners
Yep.
during the
Yeah.
financial crisis, Airbnb allowed people to open up their homes or a segment of their homes and make and generate an income out of it. I mean, if they had opened Airbnb maybe years before, there was a reason for people to look for excess income. They might not have exceeded. For example, Uber, right? As our society progresses and privacy is less of an issue, when you're posting everything on Instagram and you're taking pictures of wherever you are or whatever food you're eating, and you're doing the marking the location, whatever,
Yeah.
right? Privacy slowly deteriorates because you're really opening up your life to everyone.
The world, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
sharing a car with someone, carpooling, has become this totally okay, normal kind of thing versus maybe 20 years ago, that's unheard of,
Yeah.
right? So timing, very important. I mean, even Gary Vee talks about the CEO of Uber, I think, coming to him for investments 2 times and he declined them twice.
Yeah.
And he says, that was a big mistake
Yeah.
in my career. I mean, for him, it doesn't really matter
Yeah,
because
he
there's no money
he got
lost.
into Twitter. He got
Right,
into
Yeah.
right. There's no money lost,
other
but he's saying
things.
like, I should have. There's a lot of money to be made there.
yeah.
But timing's important, and unfortunately, Gary missed that particular
Yeah.
timing.
Now he learned.
Right.
The next law, though, the law of explosive growth.
Explosive.
To add growth, lead
Leaders
followers. Lead followers.
Lead
followers.
leaders.
But to multiply growth,
Lead leaders.
lead leaders. This is that exponential curve that we see, in math.
Mhm.
Like if you lead followers, it's great, but that gives you something linear.
Yeah.
You lead leaders who get followers each.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
mean,
explosive.
The
growth.
best thing to do is just compound interest, right?
Yeah.
If you're adding $1 every day versus adding a percentage, like end up with so much more money.
Yeah, give me a penny every day for 30 days. Be a millionaire. Get off me, ass.
Right. There you go. So it's really important that we do, but I feel like this is one of the laws that are like a little bit more straightforward. I mean, obviously you don't want to have people under you that just follow everything.
Yeah.
I mean, like you don't open a business with the intention of saying, "Hey, I want to be here every day of my life, the rest of my life, and just look at everybody." I think that these are one of the laws that you really have to, if you want to succeed in as being a leadership, this has to be one that comes naturally to you.
Yeah.
Because you want people to run things for you. You don't want to be the one running. You want to give them the idea, but have them manifest it.
Well,
Yeah.
you said this
Right.
is very straightforward. And I think a lot of the laws we see are very simple and straightforward, but they're also very difficult. Simple doesn't correlate to easy, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's like there's 3 challenges he states about leading leaders,
Mhm.
that they're hard to find, hard to gather, and hard to keep, right? No leader's going to want to be in that, like, in a sense, like following some other
Right.
leader because you
Right.
realize your potential, or else you wouldn't
Right.
be a leader.
because the nature of the word leader,
Exactly.
right? If you're following someone else who is a leader, you're not really leading anyone, are you?
Like you said, it's so straightforward, but very difficult. I feel like this is one of the most difficult to manifest. I think.
Mm-hmm.
But as a leader, you need to manifest those leaders below you, and you need to have them there, because in running any successful company, you can't be doing everything by yourself. You have to
course.
have the right people to delegate to, and you can't really do that as well if you just have followers under
Yeah, but
you.
how do you do that? There's
Right.
a lot of things
That's
that
the
go
hard
into
part.
that.
I mean that's also kind of connects to like managers versus leaders. When you look at a company, you have managers, but that's very much on the bottom sector level, and then you have executives. When you get into that like headquarters, when you're working at headquarters, or when you're a controller, I think the proper term is called a controller.
Uh-huh.
When you're a CEO, president, vice president, these people, they make decisions. They don't follow directions.
Yeah.
And I think it takes a unique individual to want to get to that place in their life, but it's definitely attainable for everybody.
Definitely, yeah.
Everyone, someone who puts their heart into it, who really dedicates their time, can definitely get there
And just
with
being able to take
this
that risk.
method.
Yeah.
Right,
Being
definitely.
able to take the risk and learn from it to gain that intuition.
Right, and I feel like people don't understand the value in other people.
Mhm.
I feel like our generation has gone into a direction of being somewhat like
Isolated.
isolation.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you.
Because everyone, when we look around, everyone's on their phones,
Yeah.
right? And then when you're on their phones, they get to pick and choose everything that they see.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is such a huge issue with our age group, is that we've honestly become pretty soft
Yes.
to a lot of things. When you get to decide, like,
When you have a filter on
exactly,
Yeah.
on
exactly,
life.
these are only what I want to see, and if I don't see it, then
If I don't like it, just
right,
cut it.
just get rid of it.
Not only
But
is,
yeah,
not only is it like parents just putting a bubble around their kids, but it's like the kids themselves are
right.
making their own bubble
Yeah,
of
and it's
what
not
they
just a
want to
bubble,
see.
It's their reality because
Right.
that's
Yeah.
all they know.
So when people don't really understand the value in other people, coming back to my main
Yeah.
point, when you have a follower, you have someone essentially who just accepts everything you say.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I talk to you guys a lot about this. Is every day, how can I? Yes, I have this foundation for something. Yes, I can do something. Doing something is not the hard part, but how can I make it better? How
Yes.
can I improve that? And that's, I feel like, what separates followers and from leaders is a leader on his time. When he's not doing what he has to do, he's thinking like, okay, well, how do I improve
Yes,
this? How am
definitely.
I increasing efficiency? Right? How am I making moves in a direction that's not only going to benefit me, but benefit the people around me and my life in the future? My attention is not just on the next 5 minutes. My attention is on the next 5 years,
Yeah.
Yeah.
next 15 years.
I think wrapping it up back to your main point about people don't know the value in others. Like, I, honestly, personally, I didn't really know how much value others had until I read a couple books. Like, realizing that you can't do anything without others, right? No matter how smart you are, how mentally prepared, how physically prepared, you know, no matter how much action you take, without others, you can't get the life that you want
Without the help of others.
without the help of others in any way, you know?
Definitely. I mean, Gary Vee is like, I think he says this with strangers. He's like, why do you? I don't know if this Gary Vee or Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
But you know, this person says this: strangers. Why do you not talk to strangers, or why do you dislike strangers? Strangers have everything that you want.
Exactly.
Someone in this world has something that you want.
I never really understood the term your network is your net worth until recently, until reading these books and realizing that, you know, people create everything for you. All the opportunity, they create all the results, they create everything.
I mean, when you look at the CEO of Chase,
Yeah.
the CEO of Chase, CEO or the president, I'm not quite sure.
Somebody high
But
up there.
Pretty sure CEO. He is the son of the president of Bank of America.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Damn.
I mean, yeah, of course, you can have connections that way through your family,
Yeah,
but
that's ridiculous.
you have to assume that anyone in their immediate circle, we're talking about inner circle last episode, right? Anyone in the inner circle always benefits because how is everyone adding to this collective pot, right? When we think of the government, it's like, I mean, one of my favorite quotes is from JFK. He says, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Yeah.
So take that and apply it to your circle of friends and saying, hey, you know, Sebastian, he can loan me $10. Ira can loan me $10, but what happens after that? How about we find a way to make $40 together?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about adding value because that's the way you attract those people that you need in your life, you know, to prosper, to grow, to get those connections.
Definitely.
So let's finish up here on the law of legacy. Anyone care to explain the law of legacy?
Legacy is very important as a leader to keep that momentum going. You know how we're talking about law of the big mo. A real leader will have their momentum go on, you know, even once they're not there anymore.
Momentum as in like they're leaving something behind? Is that what
That's
we're getting
legacy.
at here?
Yeah, that's legacy.
legacy.
Is being able to build something greater than yourself, to have that vision to build something that you know is beyond you. Like Elon Musk is a great example. You know, like the chances of him actually having a city on Mars before his lifetime is slim, but he believes in something greater for when he's gone.
Right.
And it also can apply to like passing down your wealth, right, to your children, to make sure not only your children or your children's children are going to have that financial freedom, but like, you know, 10 generations down the line, you build something so great that you have that security all the way down the line.
Yeah.
And to manifest that is like ridiculous, you know, to be that person that generates that security for so many of your, you know, your, what is it? Like your
inner
you know,
circle, maybe?
no, like you, because you know it's your genes getting passed down every
Right,
time you have
right.
kids and kids and kids.
Right.
Your
And-
your predecessors, is that the word?
No,
No,
your-
that's before.
Yeah, that's before. Your successors.
Your kin.
Your
I guess.
successors.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think this is a really important one, and I feel like it, you know, touches on more than just like family
Yeah.
necessarily. Like you said with Elon Musk, you know, he's set that like the yellow brick road to space exploration. You know, and I think it's funny when NASA is like trying to catch up, right?
I know.
And it shows you a little bit of why private versus government.
I know. I
right,
love this competition.
institution. I love it.
I watched like
I
this
love it.
hour or like 2 hour talk of whereas NASA like in front of like Congress. I don't know who they were in front of. They were in front of somebody, and it was NASA on one side and Elon on the other. And then everybody at the top, they were just like, so why are we gonna fund NASA when you guys are wasting triple the money when Elon does it in a third of the price and in a quarter of the time successfully? And they're like, you know,
Yeah.
because there was no competition for them really, because they
Right.
were always known as like, oh, the greatest
Yeah.
thing. And now he's coming, he just destroys them, and it's like that competition is just so fun to watch.
I mean, another really good example is like in our own history, in our own American history, when they're building the railroads. Government funded railroads, they were paying people to build it by the mile. So you would have these railroads that were all jank, right? They weren't secure because they were too focused on paving and just getting, you know, rail out
Getting
there,
paid.
and the railroad looking like this across, you know, the upper Midwest, versus a private industry who allocated his own investors, right? He built a straight railroad, made sure that his materials were strong, and it ultimately was more efficient, stayed in business longer. It's still in business today.
Yep.
While the other went bankrupt in the first 10 years, I believe.
Yeah.
4 years, I believe.
That's how it works when you like give people like things like welfare, right? Just
Mhm.
giving people no incentive to work hard, just to cheat the system. That's
Yeah.
why competition will ultimately, decide.
And
Yeah.
with the railroad and how you're talking about the private investors and like how with NASA and Elon, it all comes down to having the leaders looking at the wrong things. You can't be a leader with and only have your mind set on, oh, I'll do this because there's money in it.
Yep.
You have to have that passion. You have to have that drive
Yep.
towards what you're actually working with.
Or
Then-
somebody will pass you.
Then it raises the question, were they really leaders, right? Were they really leaders, or were they just profit-hungry individuals?
Well, I just think they weren't being challenged. They get comfortable.
I agree.
And,
I agree. I mean, you see this with a lot of wealthy people who have children,
mhm.
and they. I don't think so much that they're being spoiled, because I feel like it falls on the adult.
Yeah.
It falls on the parent to really
course.
control that. But let's
Mhm.
say this person has inherited a large sum of money, and their parents are deceased. So there is no like trickle down. It's just sudden.
It's just you just get all.
Yeah,
of
you
it.
just get all of it, and then a lot of people, they don't know how they don't know what to do with it. And I think a really good example is lottery winners.
Yeah.
right?
They lose it all, bro.
You see a lot of people, they win the lottery one day and they're broke within the next 3 years. So, what is your legacy? Is your legacy building up your own company, knowing what you're doing, or not necessarily even your own company? Because I feel like this can apply in your workspace.
Yeah.
If you're that one employee that makes everybody else's employee or makes everybody else's day better, go for it. I think
you're
that's
winning.
awesome. I
You're
think that's
winning.
great. Yeah, exactly. Win. So either you're
Win.
gonna be that person, or you're gonna be the guy who won the lottery and then
For
blew it all on cocaine and prostitutes.
for
Any last
me,
points?
for me, legacy also comes down to, it's not just something that's like physical or like a company that you could leave with children too. It's like my parents always tell me that they're not gonna be here forever, and the one thing that they can give me is my education.
Mhm.
And so when they pass in the future, that's gonna be their legacy that they left on with me. They gave me that opportunity to achieve my education and to build
Yes,
something
the
for me to do
opportunity.
the same for
Right.
my kids that they did for me.
Definitely.
And I think a great way to close it is as just how John Maxwell closes the book. Someday people will summarize your life in a single sentence. My advice is pick it now.
That's right.
What's your sentence?
Well, that's all the time that we have for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you guys had any disagreements, or even if you guys just want to let us know anything that we might have missed, please leave your comments in the section below. Please do not forget to leave a like and subscribe for more.
And let's go ahead and get this bread.